Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. Standing by in the wings, we have John Cornett, Jan Sue Hurst, ready to play music. How are you folks tonight?
Great.
Very good, and getting better by the moment.
And here, directly to my left, is Mr. Casper Leach, and he'll be the joint host this evening. We'll be taking your phone calls at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442 in a few moments. We have a hemp news segment, some film clips, and we'll be back in just a moment after our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
All right, we have a lot of hemp news this week. It's hard to pick out the things to choose from. But one of the big things, especially for us in River City, Portland, Oregon, is marijuana dispensaries are going to start applying for licenses officially Monday, March 3rd. So people who want a dispensary, the state of Oregon starting the process online. There's a $4,000 fee. You have to have a security plan. There are a lot of requirements. To find out more, look up the Oregon Health Authority's medical marijuana program online. Over across the river in Washington State, the Washington Liquor Control Board has limited marijuana licenses to one per applicant and will begin issuing producer and processor licenses next month. The Washington State Liquor Control Board on Wednesday approved their staff's recommendation to limit the number of individual marijuana producer licenses to one from the previous limit of 3, and initially limit production at 70% of their previous limits. So they're cutting back to allow more people in to obtain licenses. And this will clear a path for the Washington Liquor Control Board to begin issuing producer and processor licenses next month. According to board chair Sharon Foster, she said, quote, "Today's board action clears an obstacle and allows the agency to begin issuing marijuana producer and processor licenses in the coming weeks. We believe this is the most fair and equitable way to get the market up and running." On the federal level, despite the Obama administration's message to bankers that even though marijuana sales are a federal crime, they can still provide banking services to this new industry without fear of prosecution if they follow the guidelines. The nation's bankers say that doesn't change the fact that any bank which does so could be prosecuted. While many in the cannabis movement praised the policy change on the behalf of the federal government as giving financial institutions the green light to finally serve the cannabis industry, bankers just don't see it that way, according to a report by Herb Weisbaum at NBC News. According to the bankers, the guidance from the Justice Department, Treasury Department, doesn't change federal law, and a change in federal law is the only thing that would mean banks wouldn't be subject to prosecution for handling marijuana money. Besides, the new guideline require lots of complicated paperwork and due diligence to satisfy federal regulators and prosecutors. The guidance is a red light instead of a green light, said the Colorado Bankers Association. That group's senior vice president, Jennifer Waller, said the government detailed all the risks involved of banking the marijuana industry and made it very clear that financial institutions can still face criminal liability, end quote. Banks in Colorado would like to provide services to the legal marijuana industry, Waller said, but she said she didn't know of a single bank that had changed its position as a result of the federal guidance released last week. She said, quote, "Operating on a memo that is in conflict with law is just unwise for any business, including financial institutions," end quote, the spokesperson said. The new guidelines don't supersede federal law, pointed out Jim Pichute, president of the Washington Bankers Association as well. The Federal Controlled Substances Act classifies marijuana as a substance which can't legally be sold anywhere in the United States. Additionally, DOJ guidance can change at any time, but those federal laws will still be there. According to Pishu, he said, quote, "The guidelines may give some a little bit of confidence, but I don't think it'll give them enough to bank these folks," end quote. It's just too soon to know yet what effect the new guidelines will have, according to the National Cannabis Industry Association. According to Deputy Director Taylor West, she said, quote, "We don't need every bank in America or even every bank in Colorado and Washington to start suddenly offering accounts to our businesses. I think there will be some very smart banks and credit unions that will recognize this as a potentially valuable new industry for them. Let's give it some time and see if they come forward," according to Steve Hudak, the spokesman for the Financial Crimes and Enforcement Network at the Treasury Department. He went on to say, quote, "We try to make it clear that financial institutions can offer businesses services to these businesses and still comply with their obligations under the Bank Secrecy Act," end quote. Bankers and those in the marijuana business want Congress to change the law, making it clear that it is no longer a crime to provide financial services to legal marijuana businesses. Representative Denny Heck of Washington and Ed Perlmutter of Colorado have introduced the Marijuana Business Access to Banking Act that would do just that. It would stop any federal banking regulator from prohibiting, penalizing, or otherwise discouraging a depository institution from providing financial services to a marijuana-related legitimate business. So we hope that passes. In a groundbreaking statement last Thursday, the Epilepsy Foundation called for increased medical marijuana access and research to treat epilepsy. The statement from President Philip Godone of the Epilepsy Foundation said, quote, "The Epilepsy Foundation supports the right of patients and families living with seizures and epilepsy to access physician-directed care, including medical marijuana. If a patient and their healthcare professionals feel that the potential benefits of medical marijuana for uncontrolled epilepsy outweigh the risks, then the families need to have that legal option now, not in 5 or 10 years," end quote. The strongly worded statement read. The Epilepsy Foundation calls for an end to the Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA's, restrictions that limit clinical trials and research into medical marijuana for epilepsy. We applaud recent decisions that have allowed trials of cannabidiol, or CBD oil, to begin in several states. Certain components of medical marijuana, including CBD, have shown an effectiveness in animal studies, and there have been encouraging anecdotal reports from patients. But further research and unbiased clinical trials are needed to establish whether and in what forms medical marijuana is or is not effective and safe. Restrictions on the use of medical marijuana continue to stand in the way of this research," end quote. That's from the Epilepsy Foundation study. In the state of Maryland, in Annapolis, the state capital, a clueless police chief was practically laughed out of the Maryland legislature on Tuesday this week. At a hearing on the legalization and regulation of marijuana in the Maryland Senate, it turned into a comedy of errors, courtesy of the Maryland Chiefs of Police Association and Maryland Sheriff's Association. The gallery erupted in laughter and outrage after Annapolis Chief of Police Michael Pristup cited a hoax story about deaths attributed to marijuana overdoses in Colorado. He was publicly corrected by one of the presiding senators, who pulled up the hoax on his phone and explained the story was a joke. Other questionable statements included a county sheriff Mike Lewis's point that marijuana shouldn't be legalized because police would have to retrain expensive drug-sniffing police dogs. Like it's going to smell differently. An officer making light of the dangers of alcohol use, and a DA asserted no one goes to jail for marijuana, something we heard in our campaign here on Measure 80 in Oregon. And in Maryland, again, the comments on how absent constitutionally required probable cause, other than the supposed smell of marijuana, police would be less able to conduct pretextual stops, such as stop and frisk. Police really like those powers. Out of Evansville, Indiana, the past use of cannabis is identified by the presence of the inert carboxy-THC metabolite on a standard urine test is not positively associated with workplace accidents, according to data published online in the Journal on Addictive Diseases. The study's authors assessed whether there exists a statistical association between marijuana use and work-related accidents by comparing The proportion of cannabis-positive urine specimens for post-accident versus random samples in a cohort of employees from 5 states: Indiana, Kentucky, Missouri, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. According to the authors of the study, they concluded, quote, the study fell short of finding an association between marijuana use and involvement in workplace accidents. This study cannot be taken as definitive evidence of absence of an association between marijuana and work-related accidents, but the findings are compelling, end quote. A 2010 review of 20 years of published literature pertaining to cannabis drug testing and workplace performance similarly concluded, quote, it's not clear that heavy cannabis users represent a meaningful job safety risk unless using before work or on the job. Urine tests have poor validity and low sensitivity to detect employees who represent a safety risk. And urinalysis has not been shown to have a meaningful impact on job injury or accident rates, end quote. The full text of this new study, Marijuana Use and Workplace Safety, an examination of urine drug tests, appears in the Journal of Addictive Sciences. Okay, that's the end of our hemp news segment for tonight. We're going to have Mr. John Cornett and Jan Sue Hurst play. Welcome back, folks.
Thank you very much, Paul. Very happy to be here. So Monday is the big day for
people who want a license to legally sell marijuana, at least to medical patients in Oregon.
Is it just me, or is everybody and their mother like filling out an application? And
I think a number of people are. You know, I think the $4,000. I think it's the culture we find ourselves in. You know, our associates.
You have to have some kind of proper security. Well, they want a camera for each plant. They want a guard.
They want
in
cameras.
the house.
They want safes. They want vaults. They want security plans.
Marion,
So by the time you get done buying all the equipment that you promised and the $4,000 license, you spent 10 grand. And you.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just let these folks sing a song. We'll come back and talk about this.
Thank you very much.
That's in that. There's some kind of weird echo. Was that in? I know you. There's some specific frequency of music that you've been.
F sharp.
432 and F sharp. Is that?
We're using natural tuning of A 432 hertz.
Uh-huh.
That's what we used to use before it was changed by some bad people, but that's beyond the scope of this show. And also I'm playing using the capo the guitar's tuned in dad, D-A-D-D-A-D, and I've got it on the 4th fret in that 432 tuning. The 4th fret here is F sharp, which is called the God chord.
Uh-huh.
So it has a real shimmery kind of, and there's a reason why F sharp is called the God chord. You can look that up. You can look that up on Google.
All right. Well, thank you for enlightening our audience. It was very beautiful, I thought. Didn't you?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. So we have a live studio audience here in Portland, Oregon. You're welcome to come down here
Most
any
of them are live.
Friday
There's
night.
a couple,
Well, yeah, we're all alive here. You're welcome to come down any Friday night. We're on about 45 out of the 52 Friday nights. So please come down. 2766 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
2 stories tonight. This thing about you gotta have like people that living in with you, guards moving in with you, cameras on your plants, and what kind of security, what kind of you gotta have.
Well,
fence
it's
or
all.
what?
It's not. You know.
Is it over
It sounds
the top?
like you're talking
Is it?
about some of the. Colorado's over the top.
Okay.
Colorado has most of the requirements that you just said. Cameras on the plants, 24/7 from seed to sale. Requires some regulation, but it's probably the best, in my opinion, medical marijuana regulatory bill yet passed. We have the Oregon Health Department doing it. It's a fairly reasonable fee, actually, at $4,000 compared to, say, I think in Massachusetts it's $100,000, and in Rhode Island I think it's slightly more. So
sounds like maybe I should just like smoke a bowl and chill out and read it.
yeah, well, I know you have a medical marijuana permit, so instead of me giving you free cannabis all the time, which I will continue to do, I don't want to worry you.
You want a hug?
No.
All right.
But instead of that, you'll be able to go to these various stores and buy samples and try it out.
Oh, I've been doing that.
Well, yeah, but now it'll be regulated, so
Oh.
they'll have to. We'll see what happens.
All
Let's
right.
say that. It's a step forward, in my opinion.
Groovy. And then the other thing, this thing from Indiana, where supposedly there is like no
Aren't you from Indiana?
correlation between. That's what I was gonna say. I'm from Indiana, and judging from myself and my friends, at least, they're not a very bright group of people. So I don't know how much stock you put into
I see what you
study from Indiana.
But we have a phone call. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4442. Someone's standing by, so we'll go ahead and attempt to bring that caller's voice here on our television show. Welcome, caller.
Hello.
Howdy.
Can you tell me what the recent studies show about memory use and memory loss and cannabis use?
Sure.
You remember that?
I remember that.
Wow.
There is some correlation with infrequent use and short-term memory loss. However, there hasn't been any correlation shown for long-term memory loss. But for diseases, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and senility, it's actually been shown to protect the brain. In fact, cannabis has been shown to have a neuroprotective effect in the case of stroke or head trauma. So there's no effect on long-term memory and no effect on, and a protective effect, a neuroprotective effect for people using even microdoses a day or two before or after the trauma from the use of cannabis. That's what the most recent studies have said.
So it doesn't actually lead to Alzheimer's then?
No, actually it protects you from Alzheimer's. And one form of Alzheimer's is covered under Oregon's Medical Marijuana Act. So some patients that have a problem with rage and Alzheimer's can legally be recommended medical marijuana.
Really?
Would
Well,
that be-
I want
One of the most important things when you talk about memory, there are things you want to forget and there's
How in
things
the
you
world
don't
can
want to
some-
forget.
doesn't
And
have-
so you don't want to remember every face you saw on the bus this morning or everything. There's some things you don't really want to remember, and you want to remember the important stuff. So cannabis has been shown to help with that, and it helps forget things like post-traumatic stress. And so it stops those sorts of dreams for people who have post-traumatic stress conditions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it does have an effect on
Okay.
memory. But like I said, it helps with the elimination of some memories as well. So different people
Yeah.
have different talents on memory loss. And, as people get older,
I
of
see.
course.
Okay. Can I ask you another question?
Sure, you're
Okay. Right now, it seems like it's a big business for the government anyway for someone to even try to get a medical marijuana card. I mean, it costs $250
Yeah, it's
if
expensive.
you're your own grower. Even.
I think that
How can somebody afford
what we're
that?
trying to do, and we have a couple of initiatives out there right now that say anybody would be able to grow their own without a license or fee. And so it also says that marijuana for medical patients would be supplied at cost, at farmers' costs. And I really believe when we can legally grow it in a larger way, the price of cannabis should come way, way down. So I think once we remove the shackles of marijuana prohibition, or the smoke screen caused by this marijuana prohibition, that we'll see medical use return to its rightful place, and it should be cheap and plentiful, especially for medical patients. But right now, the fees are astronomical. That $200 fee, and if you name someone else as a grower, it's $250 in the state of Oregon. You go to Hawaii, and that fee's only $25. And a renewal in Montana, I think, is $15. So Oregon's fee is much higher than any other in the country.
Wow.
That should change.
Okay.
The legislature
Okay,
back
well-
about 4 years ago increased that fee, and I thought that was a
Oh.
bad thing to do at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Thank you very much. You've been really helpful to me.
All right, you're welcome. Have a good night. Thanks for your questions.
You too. Bye.
If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442.
Industrial hemp is on the headlines. Kentucky, Indiana, 4 or 5 other states are realizing how significant this can be as a cash crop for their farmers and the jobs they can create. That is so exciting.
That's true. That's true. The Federal Farm Act said that states can authorize experimental crops on cannabis, and so several state laws have already been in place. Right here we have the primary reason that marijuana was made illegal. We have hemp fuel, hemp oil, and hemp fiber, and it's because of hemp fuel, oil, and hemp fiber that marijuana was prohibited. Everyone at the time knew what hemp was, knew it was an illuminant. It lit lamps like this does, and they made up this myth about a deadly new drug they called marijuana. Now, hemp is the oldest cultivated crop. It's been cultivated at least 12,000 years, and perhaps as much as 35,000 years. And so they took the oldest crop, the most resourceful crop, the crop that produces more food, more fuel, more fiber, more medicine, and even more fun than any other plant, in my opinion. And it made that one illegal to benefit the petrochemical industries primarily.
And
They
I
offer
still
us
think
these environmentally destructive.
And I still think it's funny that the primary topic of this plant, even on our side of the fence, because of the way they forced our hand, is the smoking of it. When you and I both know, especially after hanging out with like Jack Hare, that is like very minuscule of what this plant offers.
It's all
and that's
about
why
money.
it's been outlawed. It's because of this money. It's what you just said.
It's about power and the centralization of
And
economic
these
and
hemp
political
bills
control.
are really more important and more significant than the hard-fought medical marijuana and recreational bills. Don't you
Well,
think?
I think that as long as we have, as I said earlier, the shackles or smoke screen of marijuana prohibition, that those artificial economic barriers like excessive testing, limiting hemp to a low THC variety, when plants with a higher THC, more flowers and more THC would produce more seed and more fiber.
Right.
So I think once we remove the prohibition of marijuana, then we can finally look at the real science behind
And
it.
I think at that point, it's going to be really frustrating for the people sitting on Wall Street and these big oil bears because
Well,
we're
it
going to
probably
have a
already is.
change of wealth. And
Yeah.
we're going to move the wealth from the 1% into the hands of at least 80% of the 99%.
We have a caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Oh,
Well, what do you know? Must
Hello?
have been a DEA agent who got frustrated hearing the truth and
I
couldn't
don't
hang on anymore. We know you're calling in to tie up the lines, Eric Holder and your buddies. It ain't going to work.
we have a video that we're going to run now. It's a British video called The Magic Weed. We'll be back in just a moment.
This is great.
It is. It's good. Hang on. It's coming any minute now.
The Latin name of this ancient plant and now infamous drug is Cannabis sativa. While this plant has been an integral part of mankind's history for countless years, you will not find it in the history books. It is a plant with two faces. On the one hand, it supplies us with hemp, whose legitimate uses includes clothing, canvas, and rope making. And, on the other hand, it is the source of cannabis, the illegal psychotropic drug. This is the story of Cannabis sativa, the plant with many, many uses.
We are near Le Mans, in west of France. Hemp has been grown here for hundreds of years, for both domestic and industrial use. Farmers here still use the traditional method of processing hemp, known as water retting. The stalks of hemp are extremely tough and resistant to rot, which is why it was traditionally used for ropes and canvas. Once harvested, hemp is left to soak in water before it is laid out into the fields to dry, so that the tough fibers may be more easily separated from each other. Even today, hemp fibers are broken down by hand, although an experienced hemp breaker can break from 100 to 200 pounds of hemp a day. This method still adds to the production cost. Cannabis sativa is one of the most ancient plants cultivated by mankind. Hemp processing was already developed in China 8,000 years before Christ was born. Hemp was first harvested for its seeds, a rich source of amino acids used for food. Then it was discovered that by breaking the stalks, they could use the fibers to make paper, as well as fishing nets and up to 5,000 hemp-related products, including, of course, textiles. The ancient Chinese called their country the land of hemp and mulberry. Mulberry leaves were used to feed silkworms, from which was produced the precious silk that only the rich and powerful could afford. Everyone else wore hemp clothing. Hemp is called ma by the Chinese, literally meaning plant with two forms, male and female. Hemp was also the first crop to be grown for use in war. The Chinese had originally used bamboo to make bowstrings. Then they discovered that the hemp fiber was stronger and lasted longer. Imperial decrees ordered that certain areas of the land would be exclusively used to grow hemp. An ancient legend says that hemp paper was discovered by Sai Lun, a scribe and eunuch of the imperial court. To publicize his discovery, Sai Lun pretended to die. He ordered that hemp paper should be burnt around his coffin. Then he arranged his own apparent resurrection and attributed it to the properties of his new invention. Ever since, hemp has been an integral part of the Chinese funeral ceremony known as Wu Fu, or the 5 levels of mourning. This code lays down, among other things, that the family wear different hemp clothes corresponding to their relation with the deceased. The Chinese jealously kept the secret of papermaking for centuries. It wasn't until the 5th century that this knowledge was passed on to other countries, finally appearing in Europe in the 8th century.
The word cannabis comes from the Babylonian canna, meaning cane or stalk, bis meaning twice, with two forms or sexes, cannabis. Interestingly, it has the same meaning in Chinese. The word ma is a word from a completely different culture.
I bet you zap the TV at home all the time, don't you?
Welcome back. That is an excerpt from the beginning of the British documentary, The Magic Weed. Pretty interesting.
It was fantastic.
Information.
I love that film footage from way back yonder.
I
kept looking for like my ancestors. I didn't recognize anybody.
Okay. There, we have several people standing by on the phone here. Let's go ahead and see if we can bring them in. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller. Hello. Okay, well, I thought we did. They said we had two.
I'm here.
There you are.
Said we had two. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, I have information.
There you are.
We can hardly hear you.
Okay. Hello. I have information on the medical marijuana dispensary program.
What
do you mean you have information on it? I thought we talked about it a little bit earlier. But what information do you have? So you're talking about the Oregon program that goes into effect next week.
Yes, I am. You're talking about the Oregon program that goes into effect next week.
Can we get the sound turned up in the studio a little bit, please?
Okay, in case anybody out there wants the website address, I have it here. So if they get a piece of paper and a pen, they can write it down.
Yeah. Or you can search at Google and just put in Oregon Health Authority Medical Marijuana Program, and it'll take you right there too. But go ahead, give them the URL.
Okay, it's www.oregon.gov/OHA/apply.aspx.
All right.
They start taking applications 8:30 a.m. like you said, Monday, March 3rd, 2014.
Yeah. There's a $4,000 fee. If you don't get the license, I think they say $3,500 of that is refundable. And you have to have a location, you have to have a business registry number, you have to have get your fingerprints done, a security plan on the location. There's a requirement that you have a vault or a heavy-duty safe, and a number of other security requirements. Too many to enumerate right here. But
Yeah,
that has all the rules, that website you mentioned.
Why
And
are they keeping $500?
I don't know. You want me to defend that?
Yeah, good point.
All right. I'm not going to defend that.
Yeah, what they said was it's a $500 non-refundable application fee,
Yeah.
and then, like you said, $3,500 for the permit, and that's every single year you have to pay that.
Yeah, so $4,000 you got to put on the table for each location. So if you want multiple locations, you'd have to pay $4,000 for each location.
Starting to figure out why the state decided to pass this.
It's really not that great an amount of money when you look at, they've got to hire at least 2 and maybe 4 regulators to go and inspect the program. I think it's not unreasonable. Anyway.
Okay, that'll do it. Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you. Like I said, it's a lot higher in other areas. I think over $100,000 in Maine and Rhode Island. And they don't have as many patients as we do. But
everybody's
I think we'll
making off of it now,
see
including
in a
Uncle
short
Sam.
period of time
That's great.
that the price of marijuana will come drastically down. Within a year or two,
Yeah.
the price of marijuana will start to come down. And so that's going to be good for patients and good for the state coffers as well.
What are the guys, the DEA, going to do when they got nothing to go and raid and arrest?
Well, you
and
know, one
chase
DEA
after
officer from here in Portland is now working for a marijuana business up in Washington, in Seattle, and not even a medical one, but one that's trying to set up sales for adults. So
That's
they
cool.
they hired this DEA agent.
Well,
from the
remember,
Portland officer.
at Christmas time, I suggested adopt the DEA agent. You know, to kind of educate them about the marijuana movement and how good it is.
I don't know.
But now maybe
I
just
don't
help
want to go
support
talk
the
to
family
them
that are
right
gonna
now
be
myself.
broke
I
and
mean,
make
you know,
sure
they
get
probably
away.
talk to me and I don't even know it. But that's
Oh.
another question.
All right.
And maybe we have a phone call. I'm not saying that this caller's a DEA agent, but you never know.
Hey, maybe
So,
it is.
but welcome to the show. No,
It
that one was the
Ah.
Okay, let's get the next caller. I think there's several standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, I have two questions. First question, is it legal? Somebody told me that the law has been changed and that Oregon farmers can now grow hemp. Is this true?
Yeah. The federal government has now said that hemp can be cultivated. The Oregon Department of Agriculture says they're going to start issuing licenses. So you need to contact the Oregon Department of Agriculture to obtain a license to grow hemp for fuel and fiber. The real problem is finding viable seed to grow hemp, fuel, and fiber.
Can they import the seed?
We'll find out.
Because I know a few seed
It's in the
companies
farm bank. You know,
in
so far the
Amsterdam.
DEA has not allowed any seed to be imported for industrial hemp.
Really?
Yeah.
And
So
Mark
the
Emery would
DEA
love to help do that.
Well, if they didn't have Mark Emery locked up in federal prison down in Georgia, he probably would like to do that.
Oh, there's a
But
problem
hopefully
we should
he'll get out.
resolve.
He'll get out here soon. But did you have any other question, ma'am? That was it.
All right.
Okay. But yeah, the federal farm bill included a right for states to issue experimental licenses for
Cool.
hemp cultivation.
Oh, well, speaking
So
of
that's the
Mark
first
Emery,
time.
you're coming home this year, yay. Look, here, what about our POWs now? They start ending the recreational arrests and the medical marijuana. We're growing hemp now for paper fiber fuel.
Well, they should. You know, they should let
Why
them out.
why are
I
these
think,
people still locked
you know,
up?
Let our people go.
Yeah, is that going to
what they
happen?
say.
Have you heard anything?
No.
Not yet.
No.
All right.
I haven't heard that. It hasn't. There was a hoax story about it.
Right.
But it was a hoax.
Too
So
bad, too.
They
'cause that
haven't
would have
done
been
that. There was a
smart.
hoax story that they were going to do it in Colorado, but
Yeah.
it wasn't true. It's one of those.
I
onion
bought
type
into
things.
that. I believed
Let's
it.
see if we have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello,
Hi,
caller.
Paul. Hi, Casper. It's the smoky voice girl.
Hi there. You read
Hi,
that
you
Let It
guys.
Week thing now.
How's it going?
Very well. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing fantastic over here at Alternative Wellness. Ryan's making a bunch of changes around here.
All right. Are you guys going to try to get one of those licenses for $4,000?
I believe that he's possibly doing that, yeah.
All right.
But we,
Well,
you
I
know,
wish
we
you
have
guys the
different
best.
addresses, so we also have the club. So we have Clubhouse B also.
Uh-huh.
So that's pretty cool. So on Sundays, we're having Nikki's Diggity Dink gatherings from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. here at Alternative Wellness at Clubhouse B.
And what's the address there, Nikki?
It's 5241 Southeast 72nd Avenue, and it's 2 blocks south of Foster, right between Foster and Harold.
All right.
And I wanted to kind of make it a comment to one of your callers earlier about memory.
Okay.
Due that I have a brain injury. A lot of you guys that know me know that. I was on a lot of medication for a long time and did not have a good memory from my brain injury. And due to cannabis, I would like to thank it very much that I have a great memory now, and a lot of you know that I'm a multitasker, and it's because of my memory. So I just kind of wanted to kind of answer that woman that called and just kind of say that it's really helped me. So it has not hurt my memory. It has helped my memory.
All right. Well, thank you.
And thank you, guys. And don't forget, we got Randy Starr tomorrow night. We got Randy Starr and the Players here, and that's from 7 p.m. to 9:30. So
All right.
I'd like to see anybody out here that likes R&B, blues, and jazz.
Is that the music? All right.
Come check it out and say hi to the Collective Crawl. Ann and the Collective Crawl are in the house, Paul and Casper.
All right.
And Nikki?
The crawler is crawling. If you want to go on the Cannabis Club crawl, just look for the Cannabis Club crawler.
And Nikki,
There.
you still there?
Yep, I'm still
Well,
here.
since your memory is so good, that means you remember promising to make that double-layered chocolate cake with the extra medication in it for me, right?
You got it, but it was actually triple, not double.
There you go.
I love you guys, and you have a wonderful night.
You too. Thanks for calling.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Thanks a million for what you do. Bye-bye.
If you have a question or comment for us tonight about ending adult marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, or helping medical marijuana patients, call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442.
He made a mistake.
Who?
Our Barry, the guy in the White House living with Michelle.
Oh.
He smoked pot. He said, I made a mistake. I got high. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it's why he managed to make it to the White House. You know, champions smoke marijuana.
Still smoking pot.
Medal winners,
I think
right?
he smokes tobacco. I think he probably still, when he goes home to Hawaii for Christmas.
Yeah, well,
you know,
that is some of the stuff.
We know
said,
JFK was smoking pot.
No, seriously.
You know?
Have you heard him
Did you
talk
see
sometimes?
the picture of him with Bill Nye, the Science Guy, today?
Yeah, really.
They looked really high.
And doing that selfie with that. You know he's buzzed doing that, right?
You know, we have another fellow who's hung out a little bit with President Obama who made a little video for us. We have a petition campaign that's going on right now to end adult marijuana prohibition. And probably the most famous marijuana smoker in the world is this guy.
No.
So let's see that.
Hi, I'm Willie Nelson, and I urge you to support the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act to regulate marijuana and restore industrial hemp. This initiative will end adult marijuana prohibition and let our criminal justice officers focus limited resources on real criminals and not on marijuana users like me. OCTA will also allow farmers to grow hemp for fuel, fiber, and food to create jobs and help our economy. Please support OCTA. Thank you.
So please support OCTA. You can do that by calling our office at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. You can print out the petitions at hemp.org. That's HEMP.org, or at our CRRH.org site. Or come by our office at 2712 Northeast Sandy Boulevard, right here in Portland. If you want to take the R out of that, you know, you're welcome to.
You know, Rhode Island is such a small state that when Willie Nelson drove his van through there, 35 people got a secondhand buzz.
Okay. He's always on those buses. I know that. That man is on the road again almost every week. But so it goes. So then up in Washington, they say they're going to cut, you know, all these businesses had purchased real estate, and they to meet the licensing requirements that had been announced by the Washington Liquor Control Board, and they're the ones, ironically, that are controlling the marijuana legal implementation up there. So last week, the Washington Liquor Control Board said they're cutting it back to 70%. So if you were getting a license to grow 10,000 square feet, your license now is only for 7,000 square feet. That way they can have more people get licenses to grow.
So
they have three levels of licensing, and they cut each one of them back by 30%.
Man, you just broke my heart. You just took away my opinion. I had government up there thinking they cared for the people. Now they sound like greedy politicians.
Okay. Now, there's a number there on the screen, 503-288-4442. If you have a question about ending marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, give us a call. I think we have a call standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi. Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi.
we can.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What I wanted to ask was, what is your favorite non-sugary recipe for medical marijuana? I have a friend who has a weight problem, and he doesn't want to make cookies or anything like that. So is there a recipe that you like, that you folks favor, that is delicious and does not involve sugar? Thank you. I'm going to hang up and listen to your answer off the air.
Okay. Well, yeah, you know, any food can be infused with cannabis if it has oil or fat, because cannabis is oil and fat soluble. And so I have seen turkeys basted in cannabis. I've seen spaghetti sauce. You can get there's chilies, curries. There are a number of food products. We've had some of them, you know, food providers give us some examples of their products that we've shown on the show in the past. But I would say a spaghetti sauce is probably one of the easiest to make and something that kind of complements the flavor of the food. And so that would be my favorite.
I can't imagine eating anything that doesn't have sugar in it, so I can't give you an answer.
Okay. Poor man. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. I think we have another caller. Even that was the other DEA agent. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hey, guys.
Howdy.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty
you know what?
well.
Oh, by the way, this is Jim Schultz from Gresham, Oregon.
Hey, man.
Hi, Jim.
How you guys doing tonight?
Hey, we can't complain. How about you?
Pretty good. I've seen that hand wave. That
Yeah.
hand wave. How you doing there? I'm waving back to you.
Thank you. I'm like a bee. I'm buzzing all night.
Hey, yeah, I see that hand wave again. Hey, I'm just kind of concerned about, you guys probably heard about that situation out there in Colorado where they, it's been on the news a little bit where, they're all selling their cannabis and all that, and then you see in the background they got all these security guards because they're kind of worried about their money and all that. And what do you think
Yeah, they
about
can't
that,
take
guys?
it in a bank. They have to, even wherever these businesses are, the banks won't allow them to bank their money. So they have to carry around tens of thousands of dollars, in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, just to go pay their state payroll taxes.
Yeah, so my question to you guys is, see how this is kind of playing out now? We got a scenario which, hopefully one day when all is done and over, everything will be legal. But look what's happening now. Now we got other situations going on.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Well, just last week, the Obama administration and the Justice Department told banks that they could take accounts that are legal, licensed marijuana sales accounts. But at the same time, the federal government said that these banks had to audit these accounts and issue reports to the federal Justice Department. So they imposed a lot of new regulations on it, which is better than saying you can't do it at all, I suppose. But at the same time, there are still these laws in place that say it's illegal for the banks to do that. So no big bank is going to do that. Maybe we'll find some of the smaller banks will.
And there is a new form of currency growing out of Canada called pot coin, and some of the dispensaries are interacting with each other. They're taking the pot coin among themselves to transactions for bud or for edibles off of their shelves, and that way they don't have to deal with that. Kind of like if you got mouse dollars.
Well, it's like that Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the big one, and its value got pretty high. It got cut in half, and somebody with one of the largest Bitcoin trackers had stolen hundreds of millions of dollars. So,
Potcoin just raised $65,000 for Snoop Dogg.
One thing, if there's resources and money on the table, someone will try to take it, or there'll be a bunch of people trying to legitimately and illegitimately get that money and eat their lunch.
Yeah, well, you're probably well aware of it, but obviously Bitcoin was on the news tonight because people lost a lot of money because they
that
faded
Mt.
out the
Gox
picture.
thing.
Obviously, you heard
I never
about
put any money into Bitcoin. I have some friends who advocated that. And I first they had this big drug market called the Silk Road that I first found out about from a guy in Barcelona when I had the fortune of going to speak at an event in Spain last September. But I didn't realize there was, these services set up there that were delivering not just marijuana, but just about any drug. So that was tied into that sort of electronic currency.
Yeah, well, I kind of felt bad for that guy. He spent a lot of money wrapped up in that Bitcoin, and come to find out, boof, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But my concern is, what's next? Here we are. Colorado passed a law to have this. Now you're seeing images of security guards guarding their money.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
what's next?
Well, I mean, that happens.
What's going to happen
That
next?
happens anytime you have money around. That's what you got to realize with that. But on the other hand, we're seeing Girl Scouts selling Girl Scout cookies in front of some of these places as well, and doing quite well.
And I've often said these people who have all this extra money on hand can get a money order and send it to Paul and donate to getting these laws changed here.
Not to me.
Well, or
But
they could help
for
hemp.
the
Yeah.
petition
I'll take
drive
it.
we have out there. That would be a good thing. I don't
Yeah. So there's a lot of things you can do with that money just sitting around. I mean, good God, we're still at war here. You can go support organizations, your local activists. So, you know, you don't need to have guards watching it. Just
thanks
saying.
for your call. We have
Can
another
I ask
caller.
you can I throw one more question at you before you hang up on me?
All right.
We got other people standing by, but go ahead.
One more if you don't mind. One more if you don't mind.
All right, go ahead.
So, one more, you know, you don't have to answer if you don't want, but what do you think about these people texting and driving? They drive me nuts.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Let's take the next call.
got hit by text
Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Hey.
Yes, I wanted to ask about what you gentlemen thought about the likelihood of marijuana becoming legal in this next election term.
I think it's very likely. You know, right now the Oregon legislature, are you in Oregon?
Yes.
Okay. Because we get callers that are out not in Oregon. But I think that the Oregon legislature might refer a bill. It's Senate Bill 1556. Especially if you live in a Republican district, you should contact your state representative in Salem. They're in a short session. There's less than 10 days to go, and urge them to pass Senate Bill 1556, which would refer marijuana legalization to the ballot. Then we have two initiatives that are currently in circulation. We have about 50,000 signatures. We need 87,000 valid registered Oregon voter signatures by July 3rd to qualify initiative number 22. We need 116,000 valid registered Oregon voter signatures by July 3rd to qualify initiative 21. 21 is a constitutional amendment. So if the legislature doesn't refer something to the ballot, then we plan on putting an initiative on the ballot, maybe two initiatives. And there's another group out there that says they have the resources to put something on the ballot as well. So you can expect to see something on the ballot, and I certainly think it will pass this November. So I think the likelihood is probably 63%.
And let's say
I
don't
was
know it now
actually-
before that,
I
because
was
as you pointed out, our legislative body
blown away
wants to
that
see
we
it legal
didn't
before we do
actually
it.
have it come in last term, because we've always been, Oregon's always been kind of the spearhead of the whole, marijuana legalization thing. So just kind of blew my mind that we didn't get it in last time.
Yeah, me too. I won't lament that anymore at this moment, though.
All right, neither will I.
All right,
Gentlemen, you have
thanks
a
for
good
your
evening.
phone call.
And that's what you said after the election, the last election, that if they didn't get around to making changes within the legislative body of Oregon on this topic, the
Then we
voters would
put
hand in
something else
something that
back
they
on.
didn't want. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So, there have been a lot of problems with the initiative up in Washington. It hasn't gone into effect yet. They've scared patients that they were going to take away their right to medical marijuana. Our initiative, Measure 80 the last time, Initiative 22 here, outlines that patients will be getting cannabis at farmer's cost, and they won't have to have a license anymore because any adult will be able to cultivate cannabis, and they'll put subsidized cannabis in pharmacies if pharmacies choose to pick that up. Here in Oregon already, cannabis is Schedule 2. It's not a Schedule 1 drug. It's a Schedule 2 drug.
Isn't that also true in a couple of other states?
No, not yet. All right, well, we are just about out of time here. I guess maybe we have somewhere between 4 and 5.5 minutes to go. You want to talk about your radio network?
Our
Casper,
network
your
is growing.
grandiose,
It is growing. We got 2 new hosts starting next week. Again, we had one start last week. Roland A. Doobie's got a Sunday show. And now we got every Monday through Friday for 2 hours from 8 to 10 a.m. before my regular show. We got T.L. Weed coming on doing a show right out of Colorado. Ever hear of Colorado? It's a pretty groovy little state. And talking about the medical marijuana
Rocky Mountain
business
High.
and the industrial hemp business and how to make money in the business of marijuana. It's all about business and money and all that. And so you got to tune in. Lots of great hosts, lots of great guests.
And then
It's
your
like-
show, your
then
own
my
personal,
show.
it's
And-
5 days a week?
Yeah, it's right after his show. And then right after my show, Steve Danks is broadcasting right out of London every Monday through
Danks.
Friday. And he's going to be giving us a global viewpoint from the European market. It's called Hemp Works. And
What's that website?
Time number 4 hemp, timeforhemp.com. A growing network you can find us on iTunes, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. We're everywhere you like to smoke.
All right. And so
thank you to Sasha for running the board tonight while I'm here and broadcasting this show, Cannabis Common Sense, into iHeartRadio and into our airways as well, so our audience can enjoy you. And you go to our website, timeforhemp.com. They can even watch the video of this programming live as it occurs. So we love you and the people here who make this happen. Thank you to the whole staff at Cannabis Common Sense for all the amazing work you do.
Of course, if you are someone you know needs medical marijuana, we have doctors all over the United States who can help you. You can call us at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. If you're outside the Portland area, you can call our toll-free number at 800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. If you want to get involved in our petition campaign, then call our office at 503-235-4606 or print out our petition. And you can sign it online and mail it back in to us. Print it out, sign it, mail it in. Well, now we're going out with Mr. John Cordet and Miguel. Miguel, I want to urge you folks to tune back in next week and help us restore hemp.